Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Gersnet Podcast, the independent Rangers podcast by fans for fans, where all the content is absolutely free. Tonight, as always, we are coming to you in association with Forrest Precision Engineering. Now, I'll be your host this evening, Rob Fawcett, and tonight we'll be looking back at yesterday's routine win and performance at Dundee. And before I introduce my guest, I'd just encourage you to visit the Gersnet website. Not only do we have our main website with a host of quality articles and online museum, but it also hosts our popular forums, which are a great place to keep up to date with the latest Rangers news and discussion. Now, tonight, as always, we are live on YouTube, and we'd ask that you continue to spread the word amongst your friends and family, share the pod on social media, subscribe to the channel, as well as stop by the forums and join in the chat there too. Now, I need to give another mention to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a Glasgow-based engineering company who have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for a number of years, and we are delighted to have them supporting the pod too. If you want more information about them, please visit the website at www.forestprecisioneng.com. They also have a stunning executive lounge in the Ibrox main stand, and for more information on that, you can email the club at hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Before I introduce my guest, I'd just like to wish any of the Rangers mothers that are watching a very happy Mother's Day tonight. I hope you have all had a good day. And I'd like to introduce my guest this evening, Mr. Alan Rodgers. Alan, how are we doing tonight, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, mate. You?
I'm all right, mate. Yes. I'm glad that we are talking about a win and not a defeat like we have done in the last couple of episodes that we've been on together. But it's amazing.
It was a close one. I mean, I've just got to say before we get started, I mean, between the two of us, I've got this kind of wee hairy chin going on. You've got a dodgy tash. So between us, we've got like a complete beard. Like a real
exactly,
man.
mate.
You know? So we've not planned this. It's just,
to be fair, mate, you can't see the rest of the beard because it's grey now, so it just probably blends in with the background. That's what it is.
Well, I've just trimmed mine badly. So, it's not deliberate. Not deliberate.
Absolutely, mate. Do you have a good day? Have you been up to anything much with the family?
No, just the usual. Mum was over, or my parents were over, just seeing the kids, and I had quite a quiet day. Wife and I went out for dinner last night, so the last kind of 15 minutes, I was that guy walking down the street, holding my phone, ignoring his wife, watching it on Sky, you know what I mean, and celebrating in the middle of the street when we got it back. So it was an enjoyable weekend. Yeah.
Good, mate. So we'll get straight into it, mate. Obviously, up in Dundee yesterday. I think team lineup came up. I think the biggest one for me was that we were missing Cherny. So that kind of meant we lined up with Butland in goal. Suter and Sterling and Balogun as a back three, with Ridvan and Tav as the wing backs. Probably slightly surprised to see the midfield three of Dio, Raskin and Barron, and then Dessers and Igaman up top. But how did you view that? Were you surprised at the team in the lineup? And some of the comments that I noticed online was that a lot of people felt it was probably a bit too defensive for playing against somebody like Dundee. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, exactly that, to be honest. You go into Istanbul, you go into Parkhead, you think back three, right? This makes sense. Going to Dens doesn't carry the same, or shouldn't carry the same sort of threat. So when you look at it, you expect we struggled to make chances, but hopefully maybe solid at the back. And it didn't work out like that. The formation just didn't work at all. I think with the extra three at the back, it gave Dundee a wee bit more impetus to come at us. And I don't think any of the middle three at the back really played particularly well. I forgot Sterling was on, to be honest. It was about 20 minutes, his name got mentioned, and I was like, God, he's played. And Balogun didn't have a good game. So in that sense, I was surprised. I don't think that's necessary. And of course, we'll come to it. But the fact we changed it at half-time speaks volumes.
Absolutely. And then, to be honest, mate, it didn't actually take as long to see what was going to happen. It was 60 seconds long, and we've got our first wee hiccup, shall we say, from Rangers. The frustrating thing is the goal actually comes, I think, from a throw in midway into the Dundee half. I mean, the early stages of this game, and it continued for the rest of it, our passing and touch just seemed to be all over the place. Dundee break after a loose touch by Ridvan. It's turned behind by Suter for a corner, but then we just don't defend it. We're not strong enough in the challenge. I think Tav could probably be, a bit stronger in the way that he's marking Murray. But you've got to give him a credit. It's a fantastic finish to stick the ball in the net for that corner. But we couldn't have asked for a worse start, could we?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're right. It was a really good finish. Okay, you have to give him that. It's a difficult thing to do, and it was good. The fact that Tav was marking him, it speaks to me that something's gone wrong there. I can't imagine it's the pre-match plan that Tav is picking up their centre forward. I don't think that makes sense. So whether somebody's dropped somebody or their setup wasn't right, I don't know. But that doesn't seem like the appropriate plan for me. And of course, men on the posts, you don't see it often these days. A man on the post stops that goal. So it was a horrendous start. Not the first time Rangers have gone away in the league this season and got off to a really dreadful start from a corner as well. I mean, we'll lose so many goals from corners. We'll see at the end of the season what the stats are, but it must be about 15 goals we've lost from corners this season, and it's just nowhere near good enough. And these teams, not these teams, with all due respect and all the usual stuff, when you're going away to like Dundee and stuff like that, they're relying on set pieces. If they're going to get anything from the game, they're going to want to get stuff from set pieces. They'll focus a lot on it. And you just can't get off to a start like that. You just can't. And it sets the tone for the whole game. Their crowd gets up for it. And you're facing an uphill struggle straight away. I mean, it's just dreadful to begin that way. And as you say, it came from Rangers' loose passing in the half. Ridvan, you've got to say, had an absolute nuke last night. He was dreadful. There was one point, he ran across in space and he put it sort of over the goal and wide. It was like it's like he'd hit a shot with like the toe of his club by accident, and the ball just like skewed away. It was absolutely bizarre. But that's what Rangers were like. But when you think back to the bigger games we've had recently, certainly under Ferguson, Parkhead and Istanbul, we start brilliantly and score early. But yet in so many games we start badly and concede early. I just can't get my head around it. How this squad approach games. But it's not something that shocks us anymore, which is the real worrying thing.
And it's interesting. I mean, I heard the stat the other night. Was it 6 of the 8 games that Ferguson's had in charge or something like that? We've been 2 goals behind in them, and it's crazy to think of that when you think of the good Rangers teams of yesteryear has always been built on a solid back four and a keeper, as we'll probably come on to talk about in a little bit a minute. But it'd be interesting to see the stats at the end of the year if we've conceded more from goalkeeping errors or corners.
It's probably touch and go. I think it's touch and go.
But it just seems to be that we are the masters of our own downfall, and it continually happens. And that's got to just be a mind block from the players. It's because it's happened under continuous management teams. It's just a bizarre situation that we find ourselves in, that we just cannot seem to start domestic games other than the big ones like against Celtic and stuff at any great pace at all.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, because you're talking, like say, recently Parkhead and Istanbul, but even thinking back to earlier in the season, against Malmo, we scored right from the off. We got that high press. We even scored, by the first 20 minutes, maybe away in Nice. It's kind of, we start these bigger games well. We've got a high press. We're actually reasonably good at it. But these domestic games, we can't seem to get to grips with it. Whether it's the players or as you say, it doesn't seem to be the management, because it's happening across multiple managers. So it's something that's going to continue to bite us in the backside. Under Ferguson, we've had rugby part of the Dens. We've managed to claw back, and okay, everybody loves late winners and all that, and a comeback victory, that's fine, but that can't be the norm. You're not going to get away with that for too long. So it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed quickly.
Absolutely, mate. And I've made a wee note on this that given that, you'd expect to see a bit of a reaction from the players. You'd want to see them grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and we just continue to look miles off it in that first half. Even as we'll touch on in a wee minute, we do get a goal back in that half. After we concede another slack goal, but is this a case of the players are just mentally fried when they kind of get this adversity? They just go into their own wee bubble probably for 10-15 minutes and just forget how to play football. It's just a bizarre situation for a lot of international players who are experienced. It's not as if we're playing a team full of youth in this situation as well. As players that have been around the block, but is it a case of us falling into Dundee's trap with the start a little bit and us dragging them down to their level, or is it just a case that we have a fragility about us at the moment that we just can't seem to shake?
It's probably a combination. I think it's definitely a fragility there. And there will be a
Mhm.
mental issue as well because, the league's done. We're not winning the league, obviously. So these domestic games, the players could probably see them far enough. Now, I really shouldn't say that because you have to win every game when you're a Rangers player, but we all know how that's going to work. They sort of, right, this game, okay, we just need to get through it. And you've also got to factor in the fact, these teams like Kilmarnock and Dundee, they're aware of that fragility and they're going to start at 200 miles an hour. It's obviously a tactic from these teams to do that because they know they'll get success. Obviously, the flip side to that is they do tend to burn themselves out, and by the end of the game, we're dominating it. But they always try and play with this fast start because they know they can get at us. And we just start sluggishly all the time. Because I think we're expecting these kind of games, I think sometimes because of just the nature of it, because we've got the more expensive team and we've got better players and everything else, we're expecting them to sit back and try and keep it tight. So we approach the game like we're going to have all the ball early stages, we're going to be able to roll it around a bit and feel our way into the game. Whereas these teams now seem to get the bit between their teeth and think, right, we're going to do the opposite, actually. We're going to have a real goal early doors and see if we can get a foothold in the game, and it's working for them. So again, we need to adjust our approach to these games, not just the big games where we're expecting that sort of thing. We need to realise that these teams are going to come out and attack us. We've got Hibs next week. Hibs will not come to Ibrox and sit back. They will have a go, and we need to be ready for that.
Absolutely, mate. And I guess we kind of get a bit of a half chance on the 5 minute mark, and we'll obviously talk about this person as the pod goes on a little bit. For Bessers, I think it was a decent chance, to be honest, but he kind of shoots straight at the keeper, and again in 14 minutes he gets another wee kind of bit of a half chance. Again, it goes straight to the keeper. But apart from those two wee half chances, we didn't really create much in that first 20 minutes, which was the real frustrating thing for me. And it was Dundee who then extended the lead on the 19th minute with what can only be described as an absolute fucking howler again by Mr. Butland. And I'm still trying to figure out how he didn't take that ball cleanly. It's a bit of a stramash. There's a header for Shaughnessy that is straight at him, and he just spills it. And two Dundee players are straight on him. The ball breaks to Shaughnessy. He sticks it in the net, and it's 2-0. What was going through your head at this point? Are you just kind of like hoping we can get to half time and keep it at 2? Or did you think that it was?
Well, it's exactly the same as the Rugby Park game. At this point, you just think this is a complete collapse. We have just completely crumbled under this pressure, quote unquote, and we're going to do well to get anything out of this game. And at that moment in time, you're thinking, Christ, coming out here with a 2-0 defeat will probably be a result now because of how badly we've started and because of how off the pace the team were. But you're right. I mean, it's one of these things that we're having to talk about Jack Butland too much. That's just the reality of it. He's done good things for us over the course of his Rangers career, but you're now creeping into the realms of the bad is outweighing the good.
Okay.
There's too many high-profile errors, and that doesn't help the team. I know that's such an obvious thing to say, but in that scenario, the team's gone one down early. They're fragile. You need players to then step up. You need to get a grip on the ball and just work your way into the game. And that's the worst possible contribution to make to the team is to individually blunder like that. And it's just it's become a real issue.
And I think it was quite ironic that in his pre-match presser he talked about the inconsistency of performance, and it was almost as if he was having a bit of a go at the rest of his teammates around how we've got to do better, and we're sitting here talking again about an absolute howler from him. And goalkeepers can make mistakes, absolutely. I think it's a terrible position to play in because ultimately a mistake will 9 times out of 10 end up in a goal. But for a keeper of his calibre, when he first came in, a pretty weak header going back to you is a ball that you should catch. And the fact that even those basic skills have deserted him at the moment, suggests that come summer, we absolutely need to make a number one a priority from a signing standpoint, because we cannot rely on him next year if this form continues. And I guess the second question is going to be, is it now time just to take him out the starting lineup and give him a bit of a breather and put Kelly in there and let him have a crack to see if he can do better until the end of the season?
Well, I mean, first things first, in terms of his errors, I mean, the worst one for me was at St Mirren, before Christmas, or just between Christmas and New Year, I can't quite remember, when the guy's rushing through and Butland comes off his line and just completely wipes him out and gives away a penalty. It was weird. It was like, the controller was stuck on the PS3, and you've pressed the wrong button and accidentally just wiped out the attacker. It was bizarre because everybody...
He almost did it again today.
Exactly,
yesterday.
Yeah. And, and it's one of those ones you could see coming. Like, don't do that, don't do that. Oh, he's done it. And it's just bizarre. And then you get into, like, punching the ball into his own net at Old Trafford and things like that. There's just something... Some keepers are just error-prone. You've seen that how many times over the years. Keepers just get a reputation as making high-profile mistakes. You've got to be honest, Butland, before he came here, did have that reputation. It's why he lost his place at Stoke. He just got that reputation of just being gaff-prone. And, you've got to say, maybe we're just starting to see that a wee bit. Again, he's a solid enough keeper, and he does some things quite well. I mean, his kicking yesterday was atrocious, you've got to say. But, he's great against Fenerbahce in the shootout, obviously. It's some really important saves at Parkhead and in Istanbul. These kind of bigger games, like the rest of the squad, he can do it on certain occasions. But as you say, you can't. If it gets to the point you just can't rely on your keeper, it affects the whole team. And obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty this summer in terms of a takeover and how the squad will look and how much money we'll have to spend, if any. So you don't want to be worrying about positions that you don't have to worry about. But for me, we're having to worry about goalkeeper position now, unfortunately. In terms of Liam Kelly, I think Kelly's done well enough when he's been in. But again, is he somebody that can be a week in, week out number one for Rangers? Probably not. Does he deserve a spot in the team? It's probably touch and go. But given that our season now it basically boils down to 3 games: the home and away against Bilbao and Celtic at Ibrox. I think Butland will keep his place for those games, but they have to do a bit of an acid test for him. He needs to perform in these games and step up to the mark, as he did against Fenerbahce, in fairness. But I think we should assess Butland over those games and then take a view in the summer if there's a new management team or whatever it may be. Have a look at Butland at that point, because after 2 years with Rangers #1 jersey, he should be establishing himself. And in fact, we're still having this conversation about whether he's good enough to be in that position. Again, that maybe tells its own story.
Yeah, absolutely. And as if things couldn't get any worse, I think we actually got away with one on the 24th minute where, again, you mentioned that Ridvan was terrible yesterday, and I think it's probably one of the worst performances I've seen from him, apart from a few games where he was filling in at right back. But he kind of, some slack play from him, plays a terrible pass to Raskin, which is intercepted, and the ball breaks to a Dundee player who actually sticks the ball away really well, but it's actually brought back for a foul on Ridvan. Now, I thought that was extremely soft when I first saw it at the time, and it obviously got reviewed and was given as a free kick, but that was indicative of our first half, really, wasn't it? It was just that looseness of pass, panicking on the ball, failing to control it, and we were lucky not to be 3 behind at that point.
Yeah. I mean, it was really soft, and we did definitely get away with it. But again, it speaks to, Ridvan individually was really, really bad, but, his decision-making was dreadful. The whole team's decision-making was dreadful. But in that scenario, he's got the ball out wide, and he turns inside, someone closing him down, and he tries to run inside. And I'm just going, what are you doing? I just can't understand his thought process. Because that's exactly what you're risking. You lose the ball and they're straight in. And it was a good finish, you got to say. But at that point, that's the collapse that everybody feared. It's kind of, this is going to be brutal. And going 3-0 down at Dens, and what would that have been, 25 minutes or something like that? I mean, that's unfathomable. But these individual brain farts that we keep having, whether it's Ridvan, whether it's the keeper, whether we can't mark in corners or whatever, it's absolutely endemic throughout this squad, and it's just been the story of the season, if we're honest.
Absolutely, and at least there was a glimmer of hope, though. I guess a couple of minutes before half time, and to be fair, to give the players some credit in this one, we were quick on the ball for this free kick. Dio plays it quickly. The ball works its way out to Tav, who actually sticks a really good ball into the box. thankfully for us, Shaughnessy's there to get on the end of it and slot it past the keeper. Um, and to be honest, I didn't see us scoring before half time. I don't think the performance really deserved it, but at least we got one back. And again, it's Tav with can we credit him with an assist on that one?
Oh, that counts as an assist for the stats nerds, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was the first bit of kind of swift, good play that Rangers had. Opened up a wee bit of space, and as you say, the ball in was excellent. One of those balls in that the defender can't leave it. He sees it coming. He knows he's taking a risk by trying to go for it, but he has to go for it because the ball's too good. And he just makes a mess of it, and it goes in. And we were lucky to get in at 2-1. And it was important for us. When there's two goals in a game, everybody, it's so cliche. The next goal's crucial. And they had theirs disallowed, and ours got put through his own net. So we were fortunate in that sense that we got in at 2-1, because, as you say, it was diabolical, that first half. Really, really terrible. And thankfully we were still in the game. But yeah, there was nothing to be pleased about that first half. It was difficult to get any sense that we would come back and win the game.
Aye. And to be fair, it did kick us into life a wee bit, because a couple of minutes later, we have a great chance. In fact, I think it's a great couple of chances actually. Just flicking through the notes there, with link up play from Ingerman and Dessers. The first one's a great ball through from Ingerman. Dessers was through, and kind of wrong decision, shoot straight at Carson by the looks of it. And a couple of, I think it's 30 seconds later, there's another brilliant bit of play from Ingerman, sticks Dessers in again, but a fantastic turn, and again straight at the keeper. And I don't want this to turn into a Cyril Dessers bashing session, because I have to say I've saw a lot of that online over the course of the 90 minutes of the game. I think it's fine to air your frustration with the amount of chances that he misses, but the one thing that we can never lay at Dessers' door is he doesn't give 100% effort, and it's not his fault that there's other players in the team not contributing when it comes to goals and assists. So, but that was kind of like where I was at the time. My frustration was, I thought he's got to be at least burying one of those two chances in a game where we've been 2 goals behind and you could get to half time being level. It just has such a mental impact on the team and the opposition at that point. If he does stick one of them away, we're back on top, and it makes the second half potentially a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. That second chance when he does the sort of 360 turn, that's brilliant. That's lovely. But then the finish is too much of our head down and just kind of sort of blams it. No finesse and no real composure, no real thought process behind where he's going to put it. I mean, it looked like he was maybe trying to put it through the keeper's legs, because it kind of hits off Carson's shin. But in that sense, that's when it becomes frustrating, because again, he's doing the difficult bit. He times the run well. It's a great ball to him. It's a lovely turn to get away from the defender. He makes the chance and then doesn't take it. And that's been the story of his Rangers career. He can do some things really, really well and some difficult things really, really well. But he's just too inconsistent in front of goal. It's like he gets the yips at points, That's the second golfing analogy I've filled out tonight. That's weird. But it's kind of like that. You just, when he's through a goal, you think, what are we going to get here? You could get a goal of the season contender, or, he could be, putting it into Rosette. But that's just, I mean, that's what he is. He's not going to change now.
I'm sure we'll touch on him a couple of times during the second half as well. But we get half time, one behind. I think all of us were probably looking for some changes. I think the one thing that I will say, and we'll probably touch on it a wee bit later on as well, I was surprised that who came on, because again, if you look at the bench, we've probably got more creative players that were available to us, and I think that was one of the things that we were really lacking in that first half, was a bit of creativity. Cherny being out was a massive miss for us, but it was Rice coming in for Barron, who I didn't think actually done too much wrong in that first half, and then Hadji had come on for Balogun, so there was obviously going to be a bit of a change of shape and kind of going back to 4 at the back. What were your thoughts on the changes at half time? Is there anything you would have wanted to see done differently, or was it good to?
a wee bit surprised. You know, I mean, you would obviously expect Danilo to come on at that stage. You know, 2-1 down. But pleased that we went to the back four and just put some more attacking info on it, because when you think about that kind of 5-3-2 at the start, certainly with Barron in midfield. I mean, I know Barron was okay, no better than that yesterday, but he's also not a goal threat in any sense. So if you've got that three, Raskin, not a goal threat usually, Barron not a goal threat, Diomande can be, and then when you get Igaman, Czerny's not in the team, so you're lacking that pace and width and a bit of guile in the wing. So it just lent itself to that kind of turgid lack of creativity. And as you said earlier, it takes two fantastic through balls from Igaman to create chances, or a fantastic ball in from Tav to create a chance. So yeah, going to the back four, just putting extra attacking prowess on was the obvious move for me, and it meant Dundee had to react as well, and obviously it improved our performance considerably.
Well, you say that, mate. If we thought that the second half we were going to kick on and go for that leveler, I think it only takes us 4 minutes to see Dundee are still going to be a bit of a threat. And to be honest, how the hell this chance is missed, I've got no idea, because it looked a stick-on goal at the back post, but it was just another example of how easy it was for Dundee to kind of cut us open down those flanks yesterday. And to be honest, I mean, the boy goes with his head. That's a goal, and it should be Dundee 3-1. But we kind of get out of jail at that point, and a minute later, in what was a backwards and forward game, Dessers finally gets the ball in the back of the net. Again, another brilliant bit of play by Igaman to set him up, and you could see there was a bit of understanding between both him and Dessers yesterday. That's three really good chances that he's created for his partner. He rounds the keeper, slots it home, but as soon as I saw the initial replay, you could see his toe was offside. So I was just waiting for it to be ruled out, and it did get ruled out for offside. But it kind of just seemed to sum up the performance so far, didn't it? We were kind of so close, but so far.
Yeah, and it's that wee sporadic moments of really good play. A lovely ball, great play initially, to hold on to the ball, lovely pick out. Desser's run's really good, but he's just. It's the length of his toes that takes him off. But, it's a difference from the first half as well, because he's going out, he takes the touch, takes it round the keeper and finishes it back across the goal. Whereas I think in the first half, he'd have tried to hit that first time and, probably wabbed it straight at the keeper. So you do wonder if at half time somebody said to him, calm down a bit, and try and control it. But yeah, it was just typical. But it was offside, so, we can't complain.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as if we're going to moan about the right decisions being made. But then the Jekyll and Hyde kind of in this team comes out again, because all of a sudden, Dundee go back into a 2-goal lead on the 61st minute, and for me, I think Suter exactly doesn't cover himself in glory at this goal. He kind of gets dragged out of position, and he's going to win the header, but completely and utterly sells the jersey and misses it. The ball breaks to Tiffany. I'm really frustrated with Sterling and Yefty in this goal as well for not even trying to engage with him. And he gets the strike away, and it's a brilliant finish. But we can talk about formations and set up until we're blue in the face, but if the players aren't going to carry out the basics, how the hell is any manager going to improve this group? Because we just seem to stand off, and let them have a dig at the goal, which resulted in conceding a bloody cheap goal again.
Aye, that's exactly it. It was an awful goal to concede. As good as the finish was, and except it was a good finish. Yeah. The build-up was really poor. Rangers had chances, as you say, to go for the ball, put a tackle in, put pressure on, and they didn't really do it. It just looked disorganised. And you cannot have that in a back four and expect to lift silver things at the end of a season if your defence isn't organised. But that's exactly what it was. And at that point, again, especially after the offside goal, you think that would give us a boost, and then we got the impetus. But we just can't rely on this defence to step up to the plate. And it was a really shoddy goal to lose. As you say, a number of people you could fault for that goal, but nobody did enough to prevent it. And compounded, obviously, by a really, really good finish. We didn't get away with that one. And fair enough, because we weren't good enough at that point. And if you're going to be that slack, you are going to get punished. So at that point, as soon as that 3-1 went in, you think, right, that's killed our potential for a comeback. And what can you say at that stage?
No, it's exactly the same, mate. I mean, at that point, I'm immediately thinking, right, that's us. The game's gone. I think the only thing we could probably hope for now is to try and see if we can get back in it and maybe snatch a draw. Because again, through that first hour of performance, it's not like we were cutting Dundee open and creating really a number of clear-cut chances. We had a couple of half chances that had fallen to Dessers, and apart from that, there was nobody else really kind of making any headway in the Dundee goal. What were your thoughts going into that last half hour? Did you see the win coming, or was it a case of, listen, we're just going to need to try and get away with a point here?
No, I've got to be honest. When it went 3-1, I just thought that'll be it. That's the heads will go down now. Again, by this point, we changed system, we brought on subs, and we'd conceded again and further behind now. So, no, I wasn't optimistic when that third goal went in. But, for as much as we can criticise and slag them and everything else, what you can say is that you cannot count this Rangers team out. For all their faults, it's a nice quality to have, to be able to dig deep and fight back. Again, you can't do it too many times across the season because you won't get away with it every time. It won't work every time. But a handful of times a season to dig in and get a comeback victory, especially away from home, is always nice. But no, I did not see that coming.
And I think it'll be interesting because I'd love to see if there's a way you could check to see how many tweets were deleted between a certain period in a game and at the end, especially around the manager, because I think there was a lot of criticism that I saw of him in the kind of trotted out line of being a failed Alloa manager, etc. But whatever you want to say about Ferguson, the one thing that he seems to have instilled in the team is a bit of courage and a bit of fight, which was lacking earlier on the season. Because I think we see that happen under Clement during this reign. I don't think we come back in that game, and whether that is just the influence that Ferguson and his backroom staff have got in his players, or I don't know. But you're right, mate. It was good to see that bit of fight and that bit of resilience come back. Now, I don't want us to be starting every game going 2-0 behind, because I don't think the old ticker could take it. But it was good to see us, and again, a man that has taken some amount of shit from the Rangers fans, not just this season, but even during the run to Seville and stuff like that, to have steps up yet again on the 75th minute, and he's involved early on in the build up in this. He drifts into midfield. The ball breaks to him just outside the Dundee box, and he just sticks his laces through it and into the back of the net. And I think every bad game that we play, Tav gets an absolute shit ton of abuse, but he's finished the game with 2 assists and a goal to his name. And you can't ask your right back and captain to do much more than that, to kind of drag you up and ring you through the mire. And yeah, listen, he could have been better at the goal. Nobody's going to dispute that. But I don't see any other player coming up with those numbers to try and rescue us when the shit's hitting the fan.
And that's exactly it. In terms of Tav, okay, what is he, 33 now? Every footballer on the planet, when they get to 33, starts to decline physically a bit. So fair enough. And every footballer on the planet, when they get to 33, the manager the club needs to be looking at, right, when are they getting replaced? That's perfectly correct and fine. But what cannot be argued is that Tav is not still positively contributing to this Rangers side. I'm pretty confident, maybe Cherny, but I'm pretty confident Tav's still our top assist provider in this season. And that includes assists, against Spurs and Man U and the like. And you saw him at Parkhead a couple of weeks ago, in the build-up to Diamandi's goal. A great ball in, a great pick out. He's obviously still good enough to play for Rangers. Of course he is. Again, we've done the captaincy thing to death. Captaincy doesn't really matter, let's be honest. You can put the armbands round the goalpost. It doesn't really affect the team. It's all about the way the players are. it's just a crutch for a lot of Rangers fans for some reason I just can't figure out. But he's still a positive contributor to the pit, to the play of the team, and the team still rely on him. You could see that in the first half. Tav getting down the wings, he's comfortable doing it. Ridvan going down that wing, he was just could not get to grips with it at all. We still need him to perform, and he's still good enough to perform. He obviously is. Is he good enough to still play 65 games a season or whatever? No, and they shouldn't be doing that. But we don't have anyone else. And in that scenario yesterday, 3-1 down, he takes the game at the scruff of the neck, goes in. He's at the edge of the D. That's your right back moving himself into the edge of the D and comes up with an absolute peach of a finish. Lovely strike. It's sort of very slight swerve on it, just taken away from the keeper, sort of right into the sort of bottom, just about bottom corner. A really, really nice strike, and absolutely crucial at that point, because if it gets to 80 minutes, and we're still 2 down, it looks grim. But to get one back on 75 was a real shot in the arm for the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he deserved that, because no matter what he at him, he never stops trying. He never gives up, even when it's dreadful. A lot of the approach for the team is give it to Tav, hope he can do something, and he's basically been doing that for a decade. It was a really, really nice strike at a really important time from a guy who is still one of our most important players.
And it comes back to, I think, some of the criticism that gets levied at Dessers as well. They get criticised for other players not contributing, and it's not their fault that we're not getting enough goals from Raskin, from Dio, from Eggman at the moment, because he's having a bit of a lean spell. Ultimately, we need more players to be contributing to take the pressure off some of these guys, so that they're not going to get the abuse that they kind of get when we're maybe not performing. And one guy who I'll hold my hands up and I give abuse to is Mr. Tom Lawrence. When I see him coming on the pitch and it's 6 minutes after Tav stuck it in the back of the net, that he kind of shows us a little bit of a glimpse as to what he's actually capable of. And again, it's probably another goal that really comes for nothing. The ball kind of makes its way to Raskin, who knocks it into Lawrence, and he just turns, and there's only one thing that he's got in his mind at that point, is he's going to have a pop, and it just ends up the back of the net. So at that point, you're thinking, shit, we might actually have a chance of winning this game now.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because you can see when Lawrence receives the ball, he shapes to hit it pretty much straight away. He's made his mind up, he's going to have a dig. And too often we see digs like that from Rangers players that just go nowhere near it. But fair play, you got a really nice connection on it, arrowed it right into the bottom corner. Keeper wasn't expecting it either, because keeper could maybe argue the keeper could have done a wee bit better, but that's probably really harsh. But in that sense, again, when was the last time we scored 2 goals from outside the box in the same game? It's rare. I was thinking about this earlier. It might actually have been the Steaua Bucharest game, because Lawrence and Czerny both scored from the edge of the box. But I can't think of any others. But anyway, it was nice to see that, players taking the impetus and delivering, actually being able to deliver properly. And it was absolutely crucial at that point, getting it back to 3-3, we're in the ascendancy. And at that point, you do start to believe a little bit and hope they can push it over the line.
And to be fair, you probably could call it perfect game management for Rangers at this point, because there was still an edge to the game, and as much as we were pushing to kind of try and get the winner, there was still the odd glimpse that we could quite easily just concede if we weren't too careful. But we timed it 93rd minute just to make sure we got our nose in front for the first time in the game. And it was the man in the moment, the Nigerian Prince, Mr. Cyril Dessers, who popped up with a winner, and it was a fabulous finish. And I think this game probably sums up his Rangers career. To quote an ex-Rangers player, sometimes he may be good, sometimes he may be shit. But one thing you can't fault him for is his ability to continue to get into the right positions time after time. And to me, that's a sign. That's the type of player you want to play for your club. He's not going to let the criticism get to him. He's not going to let the missed chances get to him. And while he might only convert 1 in 12, like he did yesterday, you just can't fault the effort and attitude that he gives us when he pulls on that jersey. And still, to God, that's got to be all we can ask for as a fan.
Yeah, I mean, how do you explain this guy? He's a complete enigma. But I would much rather have a striker that's getting involved, that's in and around the goals, that's even if he's missing chances, I'd rather he was involved in the game and missing chances than just being anonymous and just not showing up. Because that shows he's doing something right. He's good at making these runs. He's quite good at making these runs, and he can get playing off the shoulder and things like that. That's why he gets caught offside so often, because he plays on those fine margins. It's not necessarily a bad thing that keeps happening from him, because every so often he'll get it bang on, and it leads to a really good chance. But in that sense, that was a really difficult ball to take. He's on the half turn. It comes off the defender, so he's not expecting it. It's quite difficult to read. He controls it really well off his chest, and he's got a split second to think about it. And it's a really neat finish, because the keeper's barreling out. He's closing him down. If he's a split second later with that, the keeper's just smothering it. And he just, pokes it past the keeper. And it's a really, really good finish. Another really good finish where he can't have time to think about it, and he's got to do it on instinct. But, on what possible way can this be painted negatively? I feel sorry for him, because people are pulling stats out like, he had 10 attempts at goal. That's the most ever by a striker. He only scored once. You can't pull stats like that out devoid of context. It just doesn't happen. That includes his chance in the first half, second half, when it was a kind of left-footed volley side on, where he kind of almost tries to get it inside of the far post and it just goes wide. He was not bloody missing chances. It was a really bloody difficult chance. And it also includes in the first half. He had a header from a corner in the first half. I think it was Simon Murray on the line that kind of cleared it off. Again, that's a good header. You can't criticise a striker for not scoring that. It's just one of these things. And people will use the stats to have a go at him. And, this team over the years, and people like to have, the mentality's been questioned often. Look at his numbers, but look at his mentality. And now you've got another guy, Desser, saying, look at his numbers, and but his mentality's great though. And you can't keep moving the goalposts in that sense. Rangers, £4 million these days doesn't get you Ronald de Boer anymore.
No.
For £4 million, if you'd said would sign this guy and he'll score 45 goals in less than 2 seasons, you'd have said that's a really good return. If you then said, we'll barely win anything, people say, well, it's not his fault then, is it? And that's the way it goes. But because of Dessers and the narrative around him, people just constantly reframe it to maintain their opinion and maintain the criticism. And it isn't fair. In that sense, he needs to be given credit for what he's contributed, whilst recognising that in moments he hasn't been good enough. There's no problem with approaching it that way,
I was going to say, I think it's fair to do that, because ultimately as fans, we're always going to have opinions. And I think the thing that does frustrate me is that I think you're seeing more and more criticism solely directed at him, when he's a guy that scored 45 goals in 100 games for us. And there's no many strikers that have played for this club that will have that sort of record, regardless of which team and the players that they've got around about them. So I mean, I love the big man. I get frustrated like every other fan with him, because of sometimes the chances that I think a kind of main striker that plays for Rangers should be taking. But I'm never ever going to lay the criticism of a defeat or anything like that at his door if he continues to give the same level of effort application when he pulls on the jersey, because he might not be good enough, but if he gives you 100%, that's all you can ask.
Yeah, and that's basically, he doesn't pick himself. But again, it's one of these things that's the kind of phrase that's usually associated with somebody that's just demonstrably not good enough, and really, really struggling. As well, he doesn't pick himself, he doesn't put himself in the team. But you can't say that about Dessers. You could put together a 5-minute highlight reel of Dessers' Rangers career that makes him look absolutely bloody brilliant. Some of the finishes, it was last season, it's probably my favourite goal last season, in terms of technique. The one at Easter Road, where he kind of reverse pokes it back the way and into the bottom corner as the defender kind of falls over. That was such a good goal. It's a really intelligent goal. And he's very unlucky not to have more goals against Celtic as well. The guy just needs a break. He just needs to get a break from the fans. It's become a bit of a kind of almost like a meme. Fans getting on his back, saying, he misses this, he misses that, and all this stuff. We're not talking about an Austinstad or a Jeffers here. I mean, Dessers is so many levels above those types of guys, and it's weird that a small section of the Rangers support. I don't know whether they're trying to be edgy or whether they're just trying to get social media followers or whatever. It's a wee sport for them to try and talk him down as much and slag him as much as possible. It's not the Rangers support that I recognise or want to be part of. So I think these people just need to grow up and give him a wee bit of a break, because he's contributing well. He is a nice guy. Could we move him on in the summer? We definitely could. Could we get better than him? I think we probably could. But that's the crucial point. Could we get a better striker than Dessers? Yeah, we could. But is it a guarantee? No. And much like, moving on Goldson and bringing in a guy that's worse than him to replace him, if you're going to move Dessers on, you've got to bring in somebody that's going to match his output. You've got to bring in somebody that's going to get you 20 plus goals a season. That's what we desperately needed. How often have we said that over the years? We need a guy that's going to get us 20 plus. Now we've got a guy that's getting 20 plus. Never seen that good enough. I mean,
I agree with that, mate, because I think if you look at, we'll talk about that in a wee minute. But if you look at what we're going to need to do in the summer, there are some players that I would like to see moved on. He is nowhere near the top of that list. Nowhere near the top of that list. I think as a squad player and as a character around the dressing room, he's the guy with the attitude you really want. Somebody that doesn't let the negativity get to him. He's always positive. You need characters like that in the dressing room to lift people up. And if that's the example that he's shown to the likes of Igaman, etc., that can only benefit them in the longer term, because it means that they're going to take more chances and that they will hopefully learn to have that type of outlook and approach to football. So I think he's by far and away the least of our worries come summer.
And that's it. No matter what happens in the summer with this takeover and everything else, and okay, we're not going to get some massive war chest, quote unquote, but we're expecting to be able to spend a bit to improve the squad, but we're still not going to be able to buy 15 players. That doesn't happen in one summer. So there's going to have to be players that you keep on. And unless we get offered, another 4 or 5 million or something like that, get our money back on Dessers. Unless we get an offer like that, I would have no problem with him staying around, because he's also shown he can stay on the bench and then come on and still contribute. And that's a good trait to have. The reality is, and again, you don't want to take the chat off piece, but the reality is, if we had bids right now for Danilo and Dessers, it's Danilo I'm selling first.
Same here. I'm the same opinion. Absolutely.
He's almost halfway through his Rangers contract and still can't get a regular start on the team. Danilo is a really difficult conversation for the summer, because if we're going to sell him, we need to sell him now or renew his contract, and I don't think we can renew his contract. So that's a whole other conversation. So in that context as well, I don't think you can afford to lose Danilo and Dessers in the same summer, and then have Igaman, and then presumably bring in another striker, because we need 3 strikers. If we want to play 60 plus games for a successful season, you need 3 strikers. We all want to keep Igaman. Dessers is good enough to score goals for us. He's proven that. And then can we spend on somebody else to really be the main man and lead the line and give us that extra quality? Hopefully we can. But no, it's not a priority for me to sell Dessers, no matter what some of the mouth breathers on Twitter might say.
Well, once we're part of the 49er group, we'll just get somebody on loan for Leeds to be able to fill that gap. Probably, so we'll be fine. Let's see. Just topping off the Dundee game, mate. Who would you give your man of the match to then?
There wasn't many contenders, was there? I think you probably have to give it to Tav, just based on 2 assists and a goal. You probably do have to give it, but it is slim pickings, in terms of the overall performance. You've got to say, maybe give it to the VAR ref who disallowed that Dundee third. I don't know who it was, but it probably wasn't one of the usual suspects. That VAR ref will probably never be seen again. He'll be locked away in a bunker now. Given an admin job somewhere, he's not allowed back.
Demoted forever. Absolutely. So as we do look a wee bit to next season, I think one of the things that was clear today was just how much we missed Cherny, and it really showed up a lack of creativity for the rest of the team. He's become a massive player for us this year. And I can't actually remember a right winger contributing as much as he has over the course of this season. Surely to God, he's got to be. We've got to do everything we can to sign him for next year, unless we've got somebody as equally good as him to join the club next year.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. If we do have a bit of money to spend thanks to that takeover this summer, the suggestion is about 5.5 will be enough to get him. Now, again, I don't know if that's really a deal, to be honest, because Wolfsburg signed him for €7 million.
Mhm.
So I don't really know if it's headline news that if we almost give them the money back in sterling that we'll get them. It just seems logical to me. It's not like some Rangers have cut some great deal there, but if it's £5.5 million, I think he's worth that. I know people will say, well, he's 27. You can't, you can't afford to pay that for somebody that you probably won't get money back on. But you've got to look at his output. I keep saying that about players' output, but his goals in Europe, his assists in Europe, he's been really, really valuable for us. And if you spend £5.5 million on him, if he scores the goal or assists the goal that gets us into the Champions League, then you don't need to worry about the fee anymore. He's paid it back many times over. That's what we have to do. You have to speculate to accumulate. And for a guy that's got proven quality like Czerny, who we know is well settled here, we know he can do it domestically. We know he can do it in Europe. We know he can do it in the Old Firm games. His narrative seems to have changed a wee bit. I think it must have been maybe the international break in November or something like that. He was talking about his future and said, it's going well, but we need to wait and see. I need to be respectful to Wolfsburg and the usual stuff, which is fine. But his last interview when he was back in the Czech saying, I think he quoted us, "I definitely want to stay." So something's changed for him as well. Don't know if it's the management change or whatever, but he seems really happy with it. So if there's a willingness on both sides, it seems logical to me that that's something we want to do. Again, the squad turnover in the summer might be quite substantial, but it's not going to be 15 players. So guys that we know and we like and we trust and know can produce should be retained. And Czerny's pretty much at the top of that list for me.
And it was,
of course, the Scoosh thing. I mean, we can't.
I wasn't going to mention that tonight.
We can't not sign him because of that. We have to sign him just for a laugh. So that if he's fortunate enough to score in an Old Firm game, I wonder what he'll do. I'm on the edge of my seat already thinking about it.
I think how many suede garments are going to be ruined because of Václav Černý.
I mean, it's too exciting. It's too exciting. We just have to give him that chance. If you were swithering on whether he's worth the money, as soon as he did that, you thought, yes, this guy's worth the money. But joking aside, I like to see that. Ferguson was absolutely right what he said in the press conference. In my view, you want to see players celebrating. You want to see that it means something to them. If they just sit on their backside without reacting, you'd question it. The fact that he lost it for a wee bit, probably shouldn't really have done it. Right, fine, okay, whatever. It's not exactly crime of the century, but the fact he's reacting like that shows it means something to him, and that's the attitude you want to have. And he seems well liked in the squad. The management speak highly of him, I think he certainly should be top of the list for the summer.
And I think two players that probably get question marks over the Rangers features between now and the end of the season is going to be Cortez and Lawrence. I think it's been really interesting that not Lawrence, sorry, Barami. Lawrence was obviously trusted to go on ahead of Barami today, and Lawrence is out of contract in the summer. I think we've committed to spending £4.5 million on Oscar Cortez, who's been pretty much sidelined by injury since he's joined the club. They've both got to get, or they probably will have opportunities between now and the end of the season. They're probably on their last roll of the dice, really, as Rangers players, I think. And it's going to be really interesting to see whether they make the most of their next opportunity or whether their careers are going to be very, very short here at Rangers.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Cortez, if we're obligated to buy him, it's always going to be difficult to get out of that. So I expect Cortez to be back in the summer. And we've just got to keep everything crossed that he can be fit, get a full pre-season under his belt, and actually contribute. Because, he was really, really highly rated. 2-3 years ago, he was really highly rated. And it was a real coup for Rangers to get him. And I liked what I saw. The first 5 games or so before he got his injury, I liked what I saw and thought he could really contribute. But it's just been a complete non-event of a season for him. And it's a shame because he's clearly got something. But I don't think we can write him off. The fee is frustrating, but again, if this takeover happens and maybe get a wee bit of cash to spend, it hopefully becomes less of an issue. Because I expect he'll be back, and we've just got to hope he can contribute. In terms of Barami, it feels like that was a wee bit of a panic signing. Signing out of nowhere just before deadline. I think we're trying to get the chap on loan. His name escapes me, from Southampton, and that didn't happen. I think he went to Italy, in fact, and then kind of Barami came about. So, you just wonder about it. I don't think he's a bad player, but it's weird that his best performances have been in a kind of man marking role in Old Firm games, which you wouldn't really expect. But for £3.5 million, he needs to be a starting 11 player. He needs to be in the 11 every week if he's fit, and he's not been in the 11 much recently at all. And a fully fit Rangers squad, is he in the starting 11? I don't think he is. So it just looks like a wee bit of a misstep for me at the moment. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if he's still here next year, mind you. But yeah, he looks like a wee bit of fish out of water for me.
We've got a few players that are out of contract. Casemiro and Fernandez, obviously, both their loans are going to expire. Hadji, Balogun and Lawrence all expiring in the summer. Do you actually think any of them will still be at the club? For me, the only one out of that list that I'd be happy to see further would be Casemiro. I liked what I saw when he was here. I watched some of the stuff that he'd played in the Dutch under-21 before he got injured on duty with them. I think he's the profile of player that would do well. He looked like a big, strong, physical boy, can play at right back, can play centre half. I wouldn't be too unhappy to see him either back on loan or looking at a permanent move. And I'm surprised he's actually still with the club, given his injury situation.
Yeah, I think, again, we can maybe read something into that. The fact he is back. He's not in the European squad. He's not fit to play. So why is he still here? I do wonder, has there been discussions in the background maybe about another year's loan or something like that? And we're keeping him here to keep him around the team and the new management. You just don't know. But I did think that was odd that he was still here, but in a positive sense. Because like you, I thought he looked quite promising. And again, he's the right profile. He get injured. Sod's law, but he get injured playing for the Dutch under-21s. That's the kind of player we want. If you can get him in, he's playing for a really good under-21 side, obviously rated in his homeland. He's exactly the kind of player you want to come in and try and develop, and then, player trading model, you sell him on in X number of years, hopefully after a lot of success. So he fits the profile in that regard. And if he can get back fit before the end of the season, get some minutes, I'd definitely be interested in another year's loan, because I think he showed up really well when he was here. I think it was not Malmo. Did he not play left back as well?
He did.
So it's that kind of versatility is absolutely crucial. Again, in a team like ours that will be playing a lot of games per season, we hope, goalkeeping competitions, that kind of versatility across the backs is really important. So it's something I would like to see done. The others, again, I think they'll all be released. Hadji seems to be going anyway. I'd release Lawrence, I'd release Balogun, and just try and get a wee bit of a freshness about the squad. Again, Hadji and Balogun, I think, have made really good contributions over their Rangers careers, but for me, they look like their time's up. Lawrence, again, injury, never really got going, did he? Some good moments here and there. He's capable, but I don't think he'll have a problem getting an English Championship club. So I think that's probably the right decision at the right time.
We'll always have that free kick against PSV to look back on.
That's right. The one he had the cheek to celebrate. No, we all celebrated it. But again, he's had the odd good boof. And earlier this season, he was showing up well. It was not a game against Hibs. We won 1-0. He had a brilliant finish right into the top corner. It looked offside in real time. He's another one that just, as soon as he came back from the injury, his legs just looked like they'd completely gone. His mobility was poor, and it's just frustrating. But listen, we'll see how it goes. But I suspect there'll be a good bit of turnover in the summer.
Absolutely. And on that bombshell, I'll just say thank you very much for coming on, Alan. Again, always a pleasure, always a good chat. Thank you very much. Hope you've had a great week.
Yeah, you too, mate. That's not a MAGA hat, is it?
No. Just the New York Rangers one. It was the kids, right? The kids bought me for Christmas. Clear yes,
for the viewership that we're not we're not going to attach ourselves to any kind of political movement here. We are politically neutral here at Gersnet.
Exactly. There's no place for politics in football. Let's just get that clear. As well as being live on YouTube tonight, the show will be available on all podcasting platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Acast, Stitcher, etc. as well in the coming days. Craig and Scott are going to be here with the preview show on Friday night at 9 o'clock. Obviously, looking forward to that Hibs game at Ibrox at the weekend. So please make sure you tune in at that one. In for that one. All that's left for me to say is a massive thank you to all those who are watching live on YouTube and to everybody who's listening again. Have a great week, everyone, and I'll speak to you again soon.